There is a lot of talk about the great return to working in the office and that flexible working was just a pandemic thing. But have you been to the Square Mile on a Friday recently? It's absolutely deserted. But what are some of the pros and cons of flexible working? And is it really a new thing? Absolutely not, as far as I'm concerned. I trialled flexible working for a major broker back in 1996, before some of you were even born. So curiosity got the better of me on this topic. So I conducted a survey on LinkedIn and had 125 responses, telling me that 32% now spend no days in the office anymore as they are home-based. 33% spend 1 or 2 days per week in the office. 28% spend 3 or 4 days in the office now, and only 6% were there 5 days a week. I decided I needed a professional view on this. You are listening to a Sitting with Sue Insurance Questions Answered podcast, and I'm delighted to have sitting with me Lindsay Moore, an HR consultant who not only supports SME businesses, but also has background in HR in the insurance industry. Firstly, Lindsay, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your career?
Yes, of course I can, Sue. I mean, obviously we met when I was working at Woodgate and Clark, but I obviously had a full career before that. So I started my career actually in a sales role. First of all, as a sales coordinator for a company in the filtration sector, supporting the French distributor network. And then I moved into a sales development stroke sales type manager role in the security printing sector, selling branded protection solutions to some of the big names like Manchester United Football Club and Formula One, to name but a few of my clients at the time. But when I had my first child, a sales role with all the travel involved no longer worked for me. So I joined the Mini Baby Bell company in an admin role, which quickly led to my first opportunity in HR. They funded my professional HR qualifications, and over a period of 18 years, I had a variety of HR roles with them, setting up HR functions in both the UK and Belgian subsidiaries. And then in 2019, I joined Woodgate and Clark, a loss adjusting company, and set up their first HR function. And that's when we met, Sue, wasn't it? So I implemented their first HR system, saved them a small fortune in agency fees by bringing recruitment in-house, reviewed and improved their benefit offering alongside the technical director. And we crafted their adjuster development pathway to respond to the industry-wide succession planning issue. I managed numerous two-pay transfers during my time with Woodgate and Clark, and they almost doubled in size by the time I'd left them. When I joined them, I think there were about 150 staff, and when I left them, they were nearly 300. So that's my whistle-stop tour of my career to date.
So turning to flexible working, from what I can see, we seem to have employers trying to weigh up the benefits of in-person work in the office against employees' demand for flexibility.
Yes, you're right. COVID saw companies who were able to implement home working for employees implement it almost overnight. And I was at Woodgate and Clark at the time, and after many years of fighting against going paperless, many of the adjusters were forced to adopt digital files versus paper files almost overnight. Physical meetings were replaced by Zoom or team meetings, and remote working became the norm, really. Now, I think, though, a number of companies are trying to get people back into the office, citing productivity and collaboration as the drivers behind this trend. Companies such as Amazon, Tesla, and Dell are requiring employees to work in the office 5 days a week. And on this side of the Atlantic, in late 2024, I think Santander mandated that employees attend the workplace at least 3 days a week, aligning with a broader pushback against remote working in the banking sector. And in Jan 25, Asda required 5,000 head office staff to work in the office at least 3 days a week. And actually, it's interesting, Sue, because we were going to record this broadcast a while back, weren't we? And those were the sort of people in the press at the time. But funnily enough, I've been sort of keeping my eye on the press, and there have been a few more recently. So just last week in People Management, HSBC, it was reported that HSBC were considering returning to the office, making it mandatory, despite desk shortages. Actually, there are too many employees for the number of desks that there are. And then there was some research carried out by King's College London. So it's quite timely that we are having this topic at the moment.
I think it is a constantly evolving scene, if you like. But, what do you see as some of the main benefits of returning to the office from an employer's perspective?
Well, I mean, for me, as when I was in-house, from an employer perspective, what I think one of the main benefits is the enhanced collaboration and teamwork. So you can get spontaneous interaction. So in-person work often fosters spontaneous conversation, like those water cooler moments. They can facilitate brainstorming sessions that can lead to more creative and immediate problem solving. There's also team cohesion. So employees can more easily collaborate on projects, build relationships, understand team dynamics in a face-to-face setting rather than a remote setting. And it sort of strengthens that sense of camaraderie. And then there's the improved communication. So non-verbal cues, body language, and informal chats can improve communication and reduce misunderstandings that can occur with virtual meetings. The other thing is increased productivity. There are fewer distractions. Some employees may find it harder to stay focused at home due to personal distractions, and the office provides a structured environment where employees can concentrate on their work with fewer interruptions. And then there's better supervision. So supervisors can more effectively monitor performance and provide immediate feedback and ensure employees are meeting deadlines and productivity goals. And that's particularly important for people that are early on in their career, because they can sort of learn by osmosis, if you like, by listening to the conversations of more experienced people around them. And then also in terms of increased productivity, I think meetings are more efficient. In-person meetings can be more efficient and focused with quicker decision making and clearer outcomes compared to virtual meetings where technical issues or miscommunications can arise. And then I guess a final element is stronger company culture and employee engagement. In terms of cultural alignment, being in the office strengthens employees' connections to the company's mission, vision, and values. It fosters a stronger organizational culture where employees are more likely to feel engaged and aligned with company goals. And then in terms of employee retention, employees who feel more connected to their colleagues and the company through in-person interaction may have a greater sense of loyalty, reducing turnover and boosting retention.
That's an interesting set of comments, I have to say there. But are there also some that could be mutually beneficial? I have on other podcasts discussed the mentoring issue remotely, but what else is there that you could have in your opinion?
Yes, you're right, Sue. The in-person setting makes it easier for junior employees to receive mentorship and guidance. I know that's one that's very close to your heart, get from experienced colleagues and managers, and which is often more challenging to do remotely. For new hires, being in the office can accelerate the onboarding process as well. It allows for more hands-on training, direct access to resources, and the ability to ask questions in real time. And it can also help to quickly integrate new employees into the company culture, providing them with a clear understanding of expectations, workflows, and social dynamics. Returning to the office also results in clearer boundaries between work and home. It helps maintain a clear separation between personal and professional life. And this can be beneficial for employee well-being, as it helps employees switch off from work when they leave the office and reduces the risk of burnout caused by the blurred lines of remote work.
So we've looked at some of the pros. So let's turn to some of the cons of returning to the office.
Well, I think probably the biggest con is that human resistance to change. So the employee resistance, forcing employees to return to the office can create resistance and pushback, particularly if the decision is seen as unnecessary or counterproductive. Employees have grown accustomed to remote work and they may not easily adapt back to office environments, and this could lead to discontent. And then there's a cultural impact. If employees feel forced to return to the office, it could undermine efforts to create a culture of trust, autonomy, and flexibility, and potentially damage relationships with employees and decrease engagement. Employers also need to consider the legal implications of imposing a return to the office. They can only do so if the contract specifically allows it. If it doesn't, they'll need to consult with employees and seek agreement, and that agreement will be easier to obtain through incentivising or demonstrating advantages of returning to the office, such as improved career opportunities, for example, which will probably happen naturally anyway for those that are more visible by being present and collaborating with peers. Then there's the potential talent loss. So in terms of attracting talent, companies that require employees to return to the office full time may struggle to compete for talent, particularly in industries where remote work is becoming the norm. Skilled professionals might prefer employers that offer flexible or remote work options, leading to difficulty attracting top candidates. And then the other sort of side effect of that might be employee turnover. Some employees who enjoy remote work may decide to leave the company for an employer that offers more flexibility, leading to higher turnover rates and increased recruitment costs. And then the sort of final point really is increased operational costs. So in terms of office maintenance, with more employees in the office, companies may face higher costs related to office space, utilities, equipment, and maintenance. These expenses can add up significantly, especially if fewer employees are present in the office on a regular basis. And then there are the commuting costs. While the company may save on remote work infrastructure, employees now need to commute to the office, potentially increasing their transportation costs. And that can create frustration and result in demands for higher compensation.
Well, I'm going to actually add another one as well, which I'm beginning to see quite a lot of, is that where employers are based in London, a lot of them have given up their office space and have gone into smaller office space as a result of the flexible working process. So they are now working to a hot desking system. And there can be a serious fight for desks on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And you can literally end up going into an office and there aren't any desks available. So, Lindsay, what is the actual solution? From my, if you like, helicopter view, I would say it's potentially about striking a balance. But what are your slightly more professional thoughts?
Well, while returning to the office can bring advantages such as better collaboration, higher productivity, and stronger company culture that supports both business growth and employee development, it also poses significant challenges for employers. These include increased operational costs, potential talent loss, and employee dissatisfaction. Balancing the need for in-office presence with employee preference for flexibility is key, and employers need to carefully weigh the impact on their workforce and overall organisational efficiency. Many are opting for hybrid models as a compromise to address both issues and employee needs. So, as you say, Sue, it's about striking a balance and finding a middle ground that works for the employer and the employee.
Lindsay, you've been absolutely fabulous. But to me, the main points from today are there are pros to returning to the office, but there are also cons. And it's all about striking the right balance. And you have to take into consideration the wants and needs of the company, the industry, and the individual. So actually, it's really quite a juggling act. Personally, my vote is for the hybrid version, which I have found has made me the most productive over the years.
No, I think I would agree with you, Sue, 100%. And I think that's where most companies seem to be just, deciding as well. Most companies are adopting with either 2 or 3 days required in the office.
And I think that's probably a good balance. But, I'm at the end of my career, not at the start of it. So a tremendous thank you to you, Lindsay, for giving us such an informative interview. We hope we've answered some of your questions as well as my questions. and you have been listening to a Sitting with Sue Insurance Questions Answered podcast. For my other podcasts, please go to my website, www.suetaylor.co.uk. Goodbye.